Started
All
and there
right.
we go. So, welcome, Kevin. You've met everybody on the screen, so such a pleasure to have you here today. And for those of you who've been on for a while or just hopping on, Kevin Kurimoto is a member of the K2 Financial. And then, Kevin, I can't remember, are you the CEO of it? Remember?
I am one of the three
The
owners.
three owners, there we go. So I'll just make up titles and things, um, and make sure give you all kinds of I, are you still there? I think
I'm
my
still here. Can you
yeah,
hear me?
my computer's like freaking out on me
Oh,
right now in the middle of everything. I love technology. Anyways, so what we're going to do is talk about the ominous world of finances. And Kevin and I were talking about that when we originally met 6 months ago, because we did a great presentation in our office called that. And then we talked about how finances can be very overwhelming for people in that, and just in general. And so I think today we'll navigate how to enter the industry, but what does it mean to even look at your own finances and how to make that a part of your everyday living. So anyways, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll move through the slides. One thing I do want to share for those of the people in the audience, please ask questions as we go. So feel free to either raise your hand. I can't see it, but we can see the chat. So ask questions instead of waiting till the end. I live in an instant gratification world, and so I always like to ask questions as I go. How does that sound?
perfect. Let's go. So my name is Kevin Kurimoto. I am one of the three partners of K2 Financial. I did my undergraduate degree at Azusa Pacific, and then I did my master's degree. I have a master's in science in securities analysis and portfolio management from Creighton University. And then I have two industry designations. I have my CFP, which is the Certified Financial Planning designation, and I have my CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst designation. So when Michelle was talking to me about this originally, she actually mentioned that they gave a presentation on the ominous world of finances, and I love that title. So I thought we could dive through that a little bit more. And then we're also gonna go over three different aspects of it, and one of it being the careers, which I think, from the career service standpoint is probably a good thing to discuss, but you guys probably have touched on it a little bit. Psychology of investing. This is kind of a big hot topic about why to invest, or the behavioral finance, the psychology, the why we do what we do behind investing. And then the third thing being the savings and investing, why to get started when you could get started. So other things about me, I live in Glendora. Our office is in Glendora. Married with two kids. I have an 8-year-old daughter who I think is pretending to be sick right now because I was definitely at home until the grandparents could show up, but she's at home with let's say a cough. And then I have a 6-year-old son who did make it to school today. So that is most of my day. So Michelle, always feel free to jump in and stop me if I'm going too fast or if you wanted to ask a
Yeah, no,
specific
this is
question.
great. No, thank
So,
you. So
perfect. Go
and I
ahead.
thought as we go through the first slide,
Hmm.
as my computer's freaking out on me right now. So as we do go through the first slide, we could talk about, who you are as a person, maybe like your journey, but
Yeah.
also how you actually see your own career evolving. Because I think that's really important for people to see, like, hey, this is what I thought when I was this age, and then as I started to evolve in the industry, how you did that.
Yeah, so straight out of college, I actually really, really liked finance, even in undergrad. But as you guys may or may not know, APU is a pretty small school, so it didn't have quite all of the majors. They actually opened up the finance major my senior year, and
Mm.
my finance professor, who was Jiaolin Zhang, came to me and said, "Kevin, you need to change your major to finance." And I said, "Okay, what do I need to do?" And he said, "Add these 32 units to your senior year." And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm not doing that. So my diploma from APU says business administration,
Mm.
because that was a little bit too much. So I started in the career in the industry in 2002, 2003, right when I graduated. Started at a large insurance company doing pretty much sales. Transitioned to essentially the beginning of where I'm at today at a brokerage firm called the Legend Group. It was mainly mutual fund focused and working with a lot of 403B teachers. and educators, and I worked there from '05 until about 2016, 2017. The managing partner of the Legend Group of our office in San Dimas was Jerry Krowitz, hired, and his son and I actually purchased the branch from him about 7, 8 years ago. And then if I go back a little bit, '08, '09, went back for a little bit more schooling, got my CFP, Certified Financial Planning designation. 2013, went back for my master's degree. And then 2018, finished. I say finished because I started it many years before, but finished the CFA charter. So that was kind of the progression of where I started, where I went to. The other question you had was, where are we going? John Krowitz, let me skip ahead a page and I'll come back. So this one's John Krowitz. That's my business partner, but he actually just retired a month ago. So he is still here. He's as an employee wrapping up business for the next about 60 days, but he's off to, he actually is going to be venturing into commercial real estate. Is what his next chapter in life is going to be looking like. So myself, that's me with a beard. Travis and Allison actually purchased the firm from John. I was a 40% owner at the time, and now I'm a 50% owner.
Nice. And
So
keep in mind, for those of you in the audience, really quickly, there's a lot of acronyms going around. So if you don't understand them and you want to just ask questions, please do so. As he mentions 403Bs and those type of things, you already mentioned CFP, which is good.
Perfect. So where we see ourselves going in the future is actually coming back to this team right here. Is we are a very team-centric office, and the future is pretty much where we can take it as a group moving forward. So one of the things that kind of, I say, defines me and defines the firm is I never want to have to turn somebody away because they don't have enough money, right? So what I've learned really early on in this career was all everybody's trying to do is get to a higher net worth client, so that way they can work with the rich people. And in itself, that sounds great, but that's also pretty awful. And I almost quit on the spot when I discovered that in my first year. So when we built out K2 Financial, myself and John, we tried to have it focus on, hey, there is a way for us to be able to take care of the people that only have a couple $100s a month that they could save, but they still need help, right? So what we've really tried to focus on is, as we're bringing on new advisors, have them kind of learn and focus and be able to help the lower net worth type people that still need help with like budgeting and credit and student loans and all those various things. And that way we can kind of fulfill the commitments we're making to people. So taking a team approach is probably the biggest thing that separates us from the pack, and then trying to make sure that we can take care of mom and pop in junior too. So
and I just want to share, I appreciate that part of it, because I think what happens, Kevin, and this as well, is that those are people in our world that are going to be in our ecosystem. And so if we don't help them now, it's going to affect us either way down the road, and it's going to affect them.
Absolutely true.
We may have, I may have, so much money to invest every month, while someone else may have more or less. But ultimately, we're all going to be in that space at some point that we need to be able to still survive. And so doing that gradual approach is so important, and never undermining someone's value.
Absolutely. There's still people, still have needs and wishes and desires and dreams to fulfill. And we try to partner with our clients to help them fulfill those things.
So Gabriel has a question. Gabriel, you want to ask your question, or you want me to ask it?
No, I can ask it. I just didn't know the process.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So you're talking about this clients that don't have as much to invest, right? How are you reaching out to them and making them aware of the service? Because maybe it's not as common to them as it would be to everybody else.
Yeah, so right now, the way that we're positioned right now is we don't do a lot of marketing. We don't do a lot of, we're just available. So right now it's a lot of word of mouth. It is, quite frankly, we're pretty slammed on the business side of clients coming in the door, which is a great thing. But we're not doing a lot of like, hey, come on in for a free evaluation type stuff. But we are happy to do it. So it's a little bit more behind the scenes.
Okay, so it's mainly word of mouth, and your reputation speaks for itself, essentially.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And we can always, engage an intern if you ever need one, or, I'm always pushing it. So we can always have you look at interns and so on as they navigate this industry. So
that's actually, we're going way off the
I
slide deck
know.
here, but
Yeah.
so Nick Coletta is a peer of you guys at Claremont, and he was actually my undergrad student at Azusa Pacific, and he was one of the best students that we had. Does my mouse doesn't show up, huh? So can you see him
It did. No,
circling his
it did a
head?
little bit. Yeah, we can see
Oh,
it.
okay.
Is he?
He's the
He's at the
big,
very end, right?
he's the big guy in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He actually, so he was one of my top students when I was teaching at APU, and then he graduated in May, and come September he was still looking for a job. So I went to John and I was like, can we find something for Nick to do? So Nick actually started with us as an intern. And then over the last 5-6 years, he got his own charter. He's finishing his master's with you folks at Claremont,
Mm-hmm.
and he got a job at a much bigger firm than us, just like 2 months ago. So I'm actually, I was telling everybody before the call, I'm actually very, very proud of him, but we do miss him around here. So
That's fantastic.
so interns, yes, we do have room.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's move forward and people ask questions as we go.
Okay, so what I was gonna do for the career side of it, because Michelle mentioned, hey, there's a lot more people can do besides sit in front of clients, right? So I thought, a good case study would be our firm. Actually, we're about a 10, 11, 12 person shop, but what you'll find is the roles at our shop expand to even the big firm. So if you're looking at a larger RIA shop, biggest one being like Fisher, or even like the wirehouses like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley, they actually at their core kind of have the same roles that we have. They're just way bigger, right, in scale. So if we were to look at it, my overall idea was to boil it down to the departments and roles, and then you guys can extrapolate it to the larger. So what I view it as is I break it down two sides and going back. The only person that might get this reference is actually Cindy Bierman talking about theater, because front of the house and the back of the house is actually a kind of a showbiz analogy, right? So front of the house are kind of what you see and who you interact with. And then the back of the house is kind of the behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Both vitally important, but one's center stage and one's behind the stage type of things. So the way that I'm going to define this front of the house, I'm going to call that our advisors. It's a little bit oversimplification, but our advisors are the ones that are daily meeting with clients. And then at our firm, there's 6 of us, 3 of us with our CFP, Certified Financial Planning designations. And these are the ones that keep the client meetings. You can view the 6 of us as kind of the sales arm of the firm and of the industry. So even when Michelle and I were talking about this originally, she kind of said, everybody just thinks that that's the only job in this industry. And she's like, there's quite a bit more. So this is kind of, I think, what most people assume when they talk about financial services, that what I call the front of the house, the advisors that are out meeting with clients. And again, like I say, I kind of view us as the sales wing of the industry. The back of the house, I actually have 2 slides on this one. So what I have up here is operations, trading, and our analyst. And as I look at that, they're out of order. But Allison Kapadia is our managing director. If you were to assign titles, she actually is the CEO of the firm. She is the one that is in charge of all the day-to-day operations of everything that's occurring as it goes to make sure. And I always say these are the people that make sure the trains are running on time. The Travis Betfriend over here in the other corner is our director of advisors. So he's the one that has to oversee all of these people, and make no mistake about it, that is herding cats, because the likes of me are in the jobs that we are because we have borderline ADHD, and Travis has to corral us all together. So I'm talking as slowly as I can. Nick Coletta is our analyst. That's probably also a very familiar or common role at CGU, especially with anybody that's in the FE programs. So the analysts are designed. Let me take a step back. So the way that I look at it, the CFPs, the financial planners, I view it as anytime you're sitting in front of a client, there's like a puzzle to be solved, right? So client wants to get to retirement. Kids go to college, buy a house, whatever the problem is to be solved. And then all of their finances, income, what they've saved, those are all the little puzzle pieces. So the financial planner's job is realistic to figure out what the person sitting in front of us, what they value, why they value it, and then try to figure out how to get all the pieces aligned to get them to where they're trying to get to. And then my puzzle analogy I've been using for years, but I've added to it since I've had kids, because now the hardest part of the puzzle is finding all of the puzzle pieces, because they probably got vacuumed up last week. But anyways, so the financial planners, it's like a puzzle, trying to construct all that together. The analyst side of it, and I use this description a lot when I was teaching at APU too, you're like a detective, right? So all of the company's financial statements are, for the publicly traded firms, they're readily available to you. You can download the 10K of the Coca-Cola Corporation, you can read through it. The problem with that is it's about 350 pages. And the other problem with it, it was constructed by a bunch of lawyers and marketing people that worked together to put together this crafted story of what the Coca-Cola Corporation actually is. So as the detective, as the analyst, you have to pull that information, read through it. That gives you a little bit of a piece of what actually is going on at Coca-Cola. You need to pull down all the marketing and all of the other literature and other data, what's going on in the news about Coca-Cola, and put these together. It's called mosaic theory, if you will. And you get all of these different pieces. All of them are truthful, let's assume, but they all are shining the light a little bit differently on what's going on at Coca-Cola, because obviously the Coca-Cola Corporation wants you to think that everything's doing phenomenal, but they also have to be truthful in their statements. Mm-hmm. So even if things are going really, really badly, they have to figure out a delicate way to, and this is not a commentary on the Coca-Cola Corporation, that's just the example I always use. I'll have a few more disclaimers, I'm sure, as I go. So the analysts have to be kind of the detectives. They have to kind of decipher what's going on with fragmented information. Mm-hmm. The planners have to put together the puzzle pieces of it. And then this are our two admins, dedicated admins, and I'm looking at my slides and I realize that I just am jumping all over the place. Miranda is dedicated administrative assistant. She makes sure, honestly, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing it. She coordinates all the client meetings, scheduling, confirming. She does all of the paperwork for my clients. When a client calls in and needs a distribution, they call me and say, hey, Kevin, I need a distribution. Can you send that out? And I say, I have no idea how to do that, but Miranda does. So Miranda basically makes sure I am doing what I tell clients I'm doing. And then Kyle is a similar role to Miranda, but he covers multiple advisors.
So one of my questions, and this was actually for the future, question was coming up, but as you start to look at this, and as our students and alumni currently on here, and anyone who's thinking of, delving into a new industry, what type of skill sets do you rely heavily on now, since you've kind of broken up the team, right? Yeah. And you're starting to look, but are there some general ones that could loop within all of them? And then are there some specific ones?
Absolutely. So we never want to stereotype people, but to stereotype people, your front of the house advisors, it's sales, right? So you want really, really strong people skills. Communication's huge as an advisor. What you find and what would separate the good advisors from the great advisors is the great advisors are going to have a lot more empathy and be able to figure out who Michelle is, what does she value, why does she value it? Whereas the average advisors, they're just salespeople that are like, oh, here's an investment. So being able to expand upon that into good communication, good those skills, and then also have a certain degree of empathy on it will make for a phenomenal advisor. What I didn't say, which I've kind of already alluded to, is I shouldn't pan my office. All the piles are moved, but advisors typically don't have good organizational skills. So that is, these two have very, it's on the admin side, you definitely want very, very good. The multitasking piece of it's going to occur here. Very, very good organization skills, making sure everything's happening on it. These three actually are directors too, so you're getting into a lot more on the leadership side as well. Allison is Allison and Travis are very meticulous, very, very good on the organizational side of things. And then they're making sure that people are setting and doing their commitments on those things. Versus the analyst side of the role, it's a lot of numbers actually. It's not difficult math. You're not doing any like your FE peoples or their math skills are way above it. It's a lot of like spreadsheet work on the analyst side, and being able to add 2 + 2, and when it doesn't add up to 4, then you got to dig into it and figure out why it didn't add up to 4. Yeah. So
Great. Thank you.
mhm. So Nick, as the analyst, he oversees the entire investment process. We utilize a lot of third-party asset managers. That's actually fairly common. You could view that as we outsource our investments. We also do conduct in-house investments, strategies, and Nick's in charge of researching our investment strategies and our third-party managers. And that basically is just to ensure that we're investing our clients' money as we expect that the third parties are. And he's also in charge of researching our in-house strategies. I already kind of went over this. Travis oversees our advisors, myself included. I report to Travis when it comes to the sales aspect of things, making sure we're hitting the numbers and seeing the people that we need to be seeing. And then Allison, technically president, CEO of the firm, and she oversees, I should click. Forgot to click. And then Allison essentially oversees everything. So
Wonderful.
Travis oversees the advisors, Nick oversees the investments, and Allison oversees all of us.
Got it. That's wonderful.
So that was my careers portion of it.
Yes. So before we delve into the psychology of investing, again, I'm going to open the door for anyone to ask questions. Even you, Cindy, I can't see you right now, but anyone can ask questions as they, think about their own career growth, but also their own financial growth, right? So as you think about it, and you were connecting with a student or an alumni, how would you guide an individual emerging in the industry? What if they came and said, I don't have any financial background at all, but I do have those soft skills or those other skills that you were talking about, I'm very interested. Or you may have someone who says, I have tons of this, I've studied it, I've learned it, and I also have those skills. So how would you kind of navigate and help someone emerging?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a couple of different ways to get into the industry. And then there's obviously kind of where we end up too. So the insurance side of the industry hires like crazy, but it's kind of like everybody comes in the door and 2 out of 20 make it, and then the other 18 go find something else to do. So it's a very easy way to get in the door, but not a very easy way to stay in the industry, if you will. The RIA spot, like ourselves, and then there's obviously bigger firms than us as well. The problem with the firm our side is actually, to be quite frank, is training. We got 10, 11 people. We don't have necessarily the resources to have high level sales training and high level analyst training on those sides. So, but once you start getting into the larger sized RIA firms, we usually break it based on assets under management. And just so you guys know, K2 Financial has about 250 million under management. That would put us on the smaller tier. Once you get over $1 billion, that's putting you into the bigger realm. And then I could also separate it. The wirehouses, which I would define as JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch, and Morgan Stanley, obviously have quite a bit more resources available for training and those things. But what you'll find is that's actually some of the hardest jobs to get. Now, you guys with credentialings or degrees coming from CGU actually gives a very, very good pedigree. So to answer your question, what do I think people need to do in order to I think you guys are doing it. You drop a master's degree from Claremont on a resume. That's moving you up on the pecking order. I myself, I greatly value the education side of it, because I think, one, it does boost your resume, but two, it's also increasing your overall depth of knowledge when it comes to any topic, right? So what you go to school because mom and dad tell you you're supposed to go to school, but as you're in your classes and as you're actually learning, right? And you're actually learning how to learn as well too. And that actually stands out inside of an interview as you're sitting for some of the top jobs.
Thank you. So, Kevin, you kind of alluded to this too. It's and you've obviously worked at different industries or different companies, right? And you talked about the bigger ones and the other ones. What is the cultural, not disparity, but what is the cultural experience in these different areas for those people that are coming in?
So this is finance. It's a dog eat dog job. I don't actually care which firm you're at. You mentioned Goldman Sachs. I've had friends. I do have a friend at Goldman, Merrill, all of
Mhm.
them. It's highly competitive. So it's a tough industry because it's definitely one of those. Um, Let me phrase it this way. K2 Financial, one of the things I pride myself on, and I tell every client or any prospective client, anybody that greets you when you walk in the door or anybody that answers the phone at this firm when you call it, we're all here to help you. We're not in competition with one another, and that's not true at most other firms. Most other firms are pretty dog eat dog. So very tough, very competitive, but I'm also pretty certain everybody got to see GU by relishing a little bit of competition too. So
Yeah.
not worried about you guys from that perspective, but it's a tough industry.
Yeah.
The industry ratio is about 1 out of 20. 1 out of 20 people that start on the advisor side
Right.
continue into the industry 5 years later.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Thank you. Okay, let's move into the psychology of investing.
Oh, we have a question.
I have some questions as we go. Oh, yes, we have a hand. You may talk. I see. Oh, we cannot hear you. I can't see who it is either on my screen.
Um, let me close my mic.
Ro, can you put your,
Can you hear me now?
yes, a little bit better.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
Thank you
oh,
very
much
much.
better.
Hello, Mr. Kevin Kurimoto. My name is Shengyu Zhang. I have a question. So did you start? Did you start this company with others, two people? Like you said, you are the three founders, right?
We're not the three founders. Myself and John Krowitz are the two founders. And now there's
you're.
three of us. John retired, and then Travis and Allison purchased in.
Oh, I have read 1,000 stories of how like companies are found and then they grow, but I really want to know the moment. Like, what's the moment you want to start this company, and like what, like you think you want to devote your energy and resource into this company?
Yeah, it's a good question. What you'll find, and I've been alluding to it, is the industry is what the industry is, right? And if you want to act differently than the industry, then you probably need to have your own place to do it. So I would say to answer your question, didn't want to be like everybody else, and didn't want to work like everybody else. And the team approach was a huge aspect of it, and getting another firm to kind of believe in what you believe can be difficult, especially on depending on their size versus just finding 9, 10 other like-minded people.
So you decide to create your own company, and thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's
thank you for the
really
question. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And keep asking them as we go through. Okay.
So psychology of investing, this is a little bit more the behind the scenes, how we actually manage money. Very, very, again, 30,000-foot view of it. But so one of the things you try to do is match clients' risk tolerance with appropriate investment. So I'm diving into the investment side of it, but what I've already kind of spoken about is the critical piece is actually knowing who you're sitting in front of, right? Knowing who the client is, what they value, why they value it, because everything else is just product. And my headset is tied to my phone, and it just went off. And let me turn that Bluetooth off.
I love
Joy.
technology.
All right, now it's just on one device. The joys of technology. So what I was saying was the investment side of it actually has gotten very, very commoditized in the last like 20 years. We can go through that in the deeper dive portion of it. But the main thing that advisors need to do is match the client and know the client and know what they value, why they value it. I say that a lot because then it'll dictate how. And the how piece of it is what I'm going to dive through now. But I would actually say this is not the most critical piece of being a financial advisor, but it's what most people think it is. So over here on the y-axis, we have an overall expected return. On the x-axis, we have beta. Let's use a broader term, just call that risk. What you're trying to determine, and then the security market line, I'm going to call that the S&P 500, which I know is not actually technically correct. I passed my charter, but we're going to use that very, very loosely. So the overall idea behind this.
I'm like, this is a little overwhelming looking at it for those.
Okay, we'll just go super quick. When it gets really like over the skis, I just talk faster. The security market line is basically if you're to drop your money in the S&P 500 and then or blend it back to the risk-free rate, which we're defining as U.S. Treasuries at a 3%, which I know is also not correct in 2023. But if the overall idea being you want to be investing somewhere along this line, and that will be dictated by how much risk you want to take in it, will dictate how much return you can expect to receive inside of your underlying investments. That work was actually expanded on by Harry Markowitz, what he basically came up was the efficiency market frontier. And this is the efficiency frontier right here. So this is a list of different portfolios that are feasible. And then this is the capital market line, and this is where my analogy is breaking down because I'm still defining this as the S&P 500. But it's saying, and this is a risk-free rate, expected return on the y-axis, expected risk on the x-axis. You're going to want some combination of the S&P 500 and the risk-free advice, by the way, because that's not how we actually do it. But this is the initial premise from Harry Markowitz in the 1950s and what he won the Nobel Prize for in economics. So what he actually found was by constructing all of these different portfolios, there was actually a bend in the return right here. And that's kind of what he won the Nobel Prize from, which is the overall idea that you can actually have an expected return here. And let me say that that's maybe 5-6%. But you could take the same risk and just improve your overall portfolio and jump your return to 8-10%. Same level of risk as defined by standard deviation, but jump the return by having a more efficient portfolio mix inside of it. That is the good Dr. Markowitz. In the 1970s, Daniel Kahneman actually expanded upon his work and created what was referred to as prospect theory. Kahneman and Amos Tversky were behavioral psychologists, actually. So they didn't have a strong background in economics or finance or investing. But the overall idea behind what was referred to at the time as the rational man, now expanded to the rational investor, was we're rational investors. We buy when the market's low and we sell when the market's high. That's rational. That's when you should do investing. But Kahneman and Tversky came in, again, background in psychology, and said that we're actually not rational. We're human, and we're subject to the twin emotions of fear and greed. And the twin emotions of fear and greed absolutely shape our investment theories and what we do with it. So whereas the way that I view it is Markowitz kind of created the efficiency frontier, and Kahneman and Tversky expanded upon it, and adding, like I said, the psychology aspect of how we invest and why we invest. And I just realized I've read 0 of my notes, so maybe
that's okay. I disclaimer, I'm reading notes too. So it's interesting that you say that, because I think the psychology part has so much power. I mean, most of us are buying on Prime Day today on Amazon because the psychological side is if it's 12% less, I'm going to buy it because I know that at some point I'm going to need paper towels. And so, and so it really is that psychology side that comes in. And
absolutely.
But when you bring it to this understanding for the typical layman, in a sense, it makes much more sense. Why would you buy, a share that is worth $200 instead of $20? Because then you can buy 10 more later, it would at a lower rate. So no, that made a lot of sense.
So yeah, absolutely. Prime Day is a big one. My wife's texting me behind the scenes about
oh yeah
this.
just July and October, it's magical.
So and it's a good thing she doesn't know Cindy's on this call, because she would start texting Cindy, telling Cindy to ask Kevin if we should. Anyways, so prospect theory, this was out of Kahneman and Tversky, which also defined as the loss aversion theory. And the overall idea behind this is people view $5,000 differently. A $5,000 gain versus a $5,000 loss are not viewed, again, take it through the lens of fear versus greed. Making $5,000, oh yay, that feels great. Losing $5,000, that might not feel so good, right? And then I always just say, expand it, add a zero if that's not enough money for you. So make it 50 grand gain, 50 grand loss, or a $500,000 gain or a $500,000 loss, right? And that's what they're getting at with this overall graph right here. And if you guys have studied economics, law of diminishing returns, that's absolutely what's playing out right here as this graph starts to level off. On this line starts to level off right here. My economics professor at AP always called it happy points and marginal happy points, that you're getting less happy by. And another way he explained it was like, let's say you have one ice cream cone and you eat the ice cream cone. The marginal utility of that joy from that one ice cream cone is great. Now, let's say you just ate your 99th ice cream cone in the last hour. Will that 100th ice cream cone bring you that same level of joy or happiness? Probably not. My children have definitely tried. So, and then you flip it on the other side by saying essentially that 100th ice cream cone, we're into the loss side of things. So people look at gains differently than they look at losses. And again, take it all through the lens of fear versus greed. So that's the quick high level of prospect theory, starting with the efficiency market hypothesis, moving into behavioral finance. And then now we're into section 3, savings and investing.
Well, and it's interesting because when you and I were originally talking a few months ago, we were talking about, looking at the 30,000 foot view and then bringing it down and deducting it in the spring. But as you just said that, it's interesting when you talk about fear and greed, because that is all psychological, right? We all have an emotional relationship with money and with finances. And so how to navigate that and make sure it's positive, because we need it to survive, is so essential.
Absolutely.
So for those of you on the call today, Kevin and I are going to talk about breaking this down to like a mini series for spring, so that you can learn and grow. And Cindy, you can be a part of that maybe as you moderate and help with it. Because you're a client. Fantastic. Okay.
All right. Section 3, savings and investing. Why to invest in your future self? This is a pretty common graph that you're going to see, or very common concept that you're going to hear once you start working and you start contributing to your retirement accounts. And the overall idea I'm trying to illustrate here is starting early versus starting late, and illustrating the power of starting early, right? So if you start saving, I put it at 25 because I figured you guys were a bunch of grad students. So if you start saving at 25 and keep saving $5,000 a year until you're 65, 40 years of savings is about 200 grand. And I just came up with a number. I put 88% average annualized rate of return. That will accumulate. Your 200 grand that you saved will accumulate to $1.3 million at an 8% rate of return by the time you're 65. If, however, you were to start saving at age 40, so you're only saving for 25 years, same 5 grand, you only save 125. Previously, you saved 200 grand because you saved for those extra 15 years. 8% average return, it accumulates to $400,000 at age 65. Let me go back through that again. Start at 25, saving 5 grand a year. You'll end up with $1.3 million at age 65. Start at age 40, you'll end up with 400 grand. Pretty big difference.
And that's really important for those of you on the screen to understand. I think what is it, about $416 a month or something like that?
You're right on it. Yep.
Yeah. So I love talking about money. And if it's not feasible, if that's just like completely out of your realm and you're thinking there's no way I can do that, most people can do $25 a month, and that really does add up over time. And I know you're thinking, gosh, that's only $300 a year, but it does. It just builds. It kind of builds on top of builds and compounding. So don't stress
Absolutely.
yourself out.
And I completely agree, Michelle. The number one thing about saving is starting.
Is starting.
And then once you get the momentum built with start, I view it to like working out at the gym, right? The most important thing is getting there. And then every single day or every single month or every single year that you're going to want to run a little bit faster or a little bit further or move a little bit more weight or a little bit faster in what you're doing. And so that's the same thing with savings, is if you only could start with $50 a month, that's all you start with, but just keep raising that bar, and that's how you get there. Yeah, Gabriel, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. This is very helpful. I'm curious about what I've seen as I move through different jobs. I've noticed that some people quit other jobs, right? And their retirement plans, they don't move them over. So they have like at each job that they have a retirement plan, right? Is that a common strategy? You just leave it there, or is it better to consolidate?
Gabriel, this is why I have a job, sir. It is very common, right? So our parents' generation, and I guess Gabriel, looking at you, your grandparents' generation, they worked one or two jobs, right? And they worked at General Electric, or they worked at the plant in the city, and they had a pension, and they retired from it, and that was it. That's like over the last 20 years, that's not what is happening anymore. People are changing jobs 5, 6, 7, 8 times in the course of their careers, and there's money at all these different institutions. So
Yep.
It's common. It's common enough that there are thousands of financial advisors out in the field that are jockeying for those rollover dollars. So yes, it's common, but I wouldn't leave it. You can always move it to your new employer too. So that's always.
Okay, makes sense.
Because I can't tell you how many people I sit in front of that they're like 65 and they're like, I have money from a job I worked when I was 20. I'm like, cool. Do you have a statement? They're like, I haven't seen it in 40 years. I'm like, well, that's a problem. We should check with the state of California because it's probably an unclaimed.
Yeah, rollover is fine, but don't withdraw.
Roll over, move it to an IRA, move it to your new employer. But Michelle's right. Don't withdraw it because then you start all over, right? So this next one, we were talking, start at 25. That's the ideal. Start at 40. And I just ran it out. What if you just waited 10 more years? In order to accumulate the same $1.3 million that you would have if you started at age 25, saving $5,000 a year, you'd actually have to save $10,500 per year in order to accumulate the same amount of money. So start as early as you can, 25 or earlier. And then to Michelle's point, start with whatever dollar amount you can start with, but just keep tacking it up and don't take it out until it's retirement time. So my next slide
we're coming up on our last 10 minutes. Just wanted to kind of give you an alert as we move forward.
Perfect. I can pound through this in 3 minutes. So I hear this one a lot from as I get older, the younger people, because I was definitely one of these people that said this when I started working. It's like, I'm going to retire at 55. And it's possible, but it's very, very difficult. So we draw out this timeline. Let's say you start working at 25. You retire at 65. You actually work and you pass away at age 85, current mortality rates. You have 40 years of your life, of your working career, to save enough money to last you 20 years. If that kind of concept kind of makes sense. 40 years of savings, it's going to last you the last 20 years of your life. People that are trying to retire at 55, the FIRE movement's been huge over the last couple of years, right? Financially independent, retire early. That's the acronym is. You're trying to start working at 25, save enough money over 30 years to last you 30 years. It's possible. It's very, very difficult. But I kind of feel like if you kind of know what you're up against, it gives you better, more informed decisions to figure out how to get you there. So that was the only thing I had.
Those are really important things to consider too, because a lot of us we feel like our body's going to last forever and things are going to last forever, and we never know.
I'm 43. It's not true.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, you just never know, right? You don't know what's going to turn or twist, and so having that where you can maybe I'm just going to use coffee as an example. If you get coffee every day, maybe go every other day until you get to a point where it's 4 times a week instead of 7 times a week, and then maybe go twice a week, whatever the case is. Those little changes in your life make such a huge difference. Because we do have one life to live, and it's so important to be able to have those luxuries and things that you want to do. But then you also have to think about what would your future self be looking at if you were still employed and working full time and tired at 72 or 75 or something. And some people want to do that. That's okay. Everybody's journey is different, but some people have to do that to survive. So it's things to think about.
And then I just put this one on here because everybody asked me about Bitcoin and meme stocks. But just remember that everybody always talks about their winners, but nobody ever talks about their losers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the obligatory disclosures that I have to leave up here for a solid 60 seconds.
Oh, Kevin, it's so great chatting with you again. I think the first time we chatted, I had a fantastic time, and then I was so excited about today, and it's been wonderful. Oh, look and we have another question. Go for it.
Is it Pranav?
Yeah, Kevin, it's Pranav.
Pranal.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing your knowledge. I just have a quick question
Absolutely.
regarding the career. I just wanted to know how is the work-life balance and overall career as a financial advisor if we look some other sides of the career in finance like investment banking, portfolio manager, risk manager. So what are
It's
your
okay. So
Yeah.
this is a great question. So your investment bankers have no work-life balance; they just have work.
Mhm.
100-hour work week for an investment banker means that they stop working on Wednesday. So the financial advisor side of things, it's hard in the first 5 to 10 years because there's a lot you got to get up to speed on. And so your work-life balance is definitely skewed towards work in your first 5 to 10 years, but then it does get quite a bit easier to have a work-life balance in your later years. The complete opposite side of it is there's all those advisors that are probably golfing right now. I don't encourage that. I encourage them to work and see their clients and call them. But the work-life balance on the advisor side of the shop is definitely favors a lot more favorable than most of the other parts of the industry.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm having a second question.
Sure.
So you definitely have worked in the industry before starting a company. So how was your experience there as compared to what you are doing now? Like what was the great experience over there that was useful when you started your own company and working here?
Yes. So it is very, very different, right? Because I would consider myself, so the way that I look at myself is I'm a financial planner by trade because that's what I do most of my 9 to 5. I'm an analyst by education because I definitely still have to put pen to paper and do that. But I'm a manager like last because I suck at it. So when people ask me about my degree, everybody assumes I have an MBA. I don't actually, because 10 years ago 12 years ago, I don't know, 12 years ago, let's say, you guys can't see the diplomas, but this is getting recorded, so I have to be correct. 12 years ago when I started working on my master's degree, or 13 years ago when I started looking into doing it, I didn't go for an MBA because at the time I didn't manage people and I didn't plan on managing people. So I went with an MS. And what I would say with to get to your question about the difference between working and then owning a business is it's difficult, right? Because there's a lot more personalities, a lot more dynamics that occur in owning a business than just me going out and seeing clients. So it's a great question. It's definitely something that you need to be aware of because there's what we call working on the business and working in the business. So as the advisor, I'm working in the business, but there's definitely times where I have to put that down and work on the business and work on the operations and the trading and the analyst portions of it that I kind of said most other people do on the 9 to 5 portion of it. But owning the business, you do have to have your hands around all of it.
Where do you have, like, which part of the work you had fun and enjoyed the most?
So I really do enjoy the client work. I absolutely enjoy seeing my clients that I've had for even just a year to 20 years, right? And share stories about their grandchildren and my kids. You definitely become very, very close with your clients. On the management side, of the ownership side of it, you get to live the lives with the people with the team that you're with. So those are two of the more enriching pieces of the job.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Kevin, if we have a couple seconds, can you stop sharing your screen? And I just want to open it up to anyone else who has questions. We have about 2 minutes left, and just grateful for your time today. It was fun. Love talking about money, but really one of my favorite parts was knowing that you know Cindy so well. I was all very excited.
I just talked to her yesterday. I didn't know she was going to be on this.
Yeah.
I know I was going to surprise him in Berkeley, and I thought, no, didn't get to surprise him totally, but I was looking forward to it.
For those of you on today, Kevin has offered to, you could always connect with them and ask more questions and so on. And we will work certainly together to do some type of mini series for the spring as you think about even negotiating and just your life, right? And how to navigate the income coming in and the income going out and so on.
Yeah, and reach out to Michelle over there and say, hey, this was helpful or this was terrible. And but here are the things that I would love to learn about, and we can definitely customize it to
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, and if it's terrible, don't send me something, please. I just don't want to know. Anyways,
we can always improve. We can always improve.
Any last questions or comments or anything from anyone in the audience? Oh yes, please.
Yeah, excuse me, I have a question. Like most of the finance things, I know the theory, but I don't know how it works. Like if I want to go to internship or to work, like I know in general information, but I don't know how to use it.
I mean, that is pretty common, especially coming straight out of school. So an internship should ideally be geared up towards teaching you a little bit more of the practical side of it, because as you guys are all sitting here right now, you have the knowledge, but not necessarily the wisdom of how to apply it. So finding the right type of people, and honestly, that would be the first thing that I would be asking in job interviews, right? Because you should be interviewing the firm as well as them interviewing you, right? Hey, you guys are at CGU. You're very intelligent. They already know that, but you have the book knowledge. You need the practical knowledge. How are they going to deliver that to you? That would be a very, very good question that you guys should be asking at every single job interview that you sit in front of.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just want to comment on that. And I think the thing is, whenever you do go to an interview, you're interviewing them just as much. This has to be a space for you. These are your most productive waking hours, and you've got to be in a positive space and a space of growth. So I'm sorry, but I just had to interject. But yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah. Gabriel.
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. First of all, thank you very much. To me, this was very helpful. You have great communication skills. I think I understand.
Tell my wife. Hold on.
No, because then we're going to talk to her about Amazon and Cindy being on screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And second, congratulations to you for following, your dream, your idea about helping people and not, just looking at them as just products, right? Or more like really having an approach where you want to connect with them. I think that's great, and it's good to meet people like that. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah, thank you. Any last questions before we give Kevin his day back and he has to tend to his sick daughter? Thank you, Kevin. This has been remarkable and fun again to chat and engage. And thank you definitely to all the students on here, and really appreciative of my colleagues that I work with. So I just wanted to give them some kudos as well.
Michelle and your team, thank you for putting this all together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Ro just put the email in the chat. Go ahead and grab that before we end it today. And if not, you can go on to our website. Before we go tomorrow, we have Brand You. So really understanding your digital presence. It also is at noon. And then we just for those of you that want to know, we have Duncan Scott and Ryan Patel next Thursday. That one's in person and he's from New Balance. And that one will be closed off. There is a breakfast and a chat. So if you're interested in that, go to our website and register for that. So, but thank you. This is exciting and good luck on your midterms too, for all of you in the middle of midterms. Appreciate your time today. Thank you.